But I mean, if you look at the Battle of the Trench, that's of course the Battle of Belisarius, one of Justinian's generals in the 6th century.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. And today, as we can see, we're going to be looking at the Battle of the Trench. And we have our good friend Murad back with us. Well, first of all, Murad, in terms of the big battles, what are the main battles in Islamic tradition that are often referred to? Obviously, apart from the Battle of the Trench.
The main ones are Battle of Badr and Uhud.
Yeah.
And the trench, of course, is one of the important ones. And right now, I'm not sure, but the main ones which have the main two which have religion in them, which are Battle of Badr and Uhud.
Okay. And say, if we were to say your top three most important ones, Battle of the Trench would be in the top three, presumably, as one everyone would have heard of. Okay. So today we're going to be looking at whether this is a myth or not. And yeah, so let's get straight in. And this is the third video in a series. So obviously this is going to follow on from your work that you did on the Umayyads and the Abbasids. Okay. So first of all, what I'm going to do is look at the Islamic traditions version of the Battle of Khandaq, which I presume is just the Arabic word for trench. Is that right?
Yes, Khandaq.
Say it again.
Khandaq. Yes.
Khandaq. Good. Okay, and so here are the main details of it. So there was supposedly a 30-day long siege of Yathrib in 627 by Arab and Jewish tribes, and the strength of the Confederate armies was estimated at around 10,000 men with 600 horses and some camels, while the Yathrib defenders numbered 3,000. So basically you have Muslims in Yathrib with some Jewish families in the south of the city, and it's basically against all of these Jewish tribes and other Arabs who weren't Muslim. Okay. Now, the largely outnumbered defenders of Yathrib, and I'm using the word Yathrib rather than Medina here, and I'll just be consistent with that all the way through. So the largely outnumbered defenders of Yathrib, many Muslims led by Muhammad, dug a trench on the suggestion of Salman the Persian, which together with Yathrib's natural fortifications rendered the Confederate cavalry, consisting of horses and camels, useless, locking the two sides in a stalemate. Now, hoping for a pincer movement, the Confederates persuaded the Muslim allied Yathrib Jews, the Banu Qurayza, to attack the city from the south. Okay, so if, this will become clear now when I show a diagram in a second. So basically the Confederates are attacking Yathrib from the north, and they come up with an idea of attacking from the south with the cooperation of the Banu Qurayza. Okay. However, Muhammad's diplomacy derailed the negotiations and broke up the Confederacy against him. The well-organized defenders, the sinking of Confederate morale, and poor weather conditions caused the siege to end in a fiasco. Does that be a fair summary of the Islamic tradition?
Yes, mainly, yes.
Yeah, I haven't included all the details, and to be honest with you, I think most of the details are not really all that important, but that's the essence of it. So the key kind of details is 30-day siege. It was 10,000 versus 3,000, and the Muslims won the day through the use of a trench and clever diplomacy on the part of Muhammad. So that's the essence of the story. Okay, now, so this is a diagram just in case people couldn't visualize that. So you can see the Confederates, the Arabs and Jews at the top, 10,000. They build a trench that cleverly stops them from invading. And you can see at the bottom there, Banu Qurayza is the Jewish tribe that basically was going to betray Muhammad and so on. Okay, so that's the kind of the visuals of it. Now, so we're going to look at actually the real Battle of the Trench, where all of this myth came from, and we're going to be looking at why they took this story and used it in their own tradition as well. So this is going to be very relevant. A lot of people are kind of asking, well, how could they how could they possibly come up with all of these stories? Well, one way is actually just to reuse old stories. Okay, so the Battle of Dara is a real battle. It was fought between the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire and the Sassanids in 530. Now, key detail is actually, it really started in 527, but the key Battle of the Trench happened in 530. So just bear that in mind. 627 was the year the supposed Battle of the Trench occurred in Islamic tradition. 100 years exactly earlier, we have this other war between the Byzantines and the Sassanids. Okay. It was recorded in great detail by the Byzantine Greek scholar Procopius, who accompanied the Byzantine general Valerius in Emperor Justinian's wars. So we have a rock solid historical account by a Greek scholar who was there, witnessed the whole thing. So he was an eyewitness to everything. So you can't get better than that, but you can actually. Procopius became the principal Byzantine historian of the 6th century, writing the history of the wars, the buildings, and the secret history. He is commonly classified as the last major historian of the ancient Western world. So this is pretty rock solid stuff, okay?
Well, before you move,
yeah.
Procopius wrote about whom also?
About who? Who?
Yes, I'm asking you, yes. Who did Procopius also write about?
I haven't looked into that now. I've only focused on this part of the story. Did you want to suggest some?
Yes, he is the one who wrote about the wars of Abraham, which is the one who was supposedly of the Battle of the Elephant. And he is the one who and he's the one who gives the date that he died at 555. So this is very important.
It actually occurred to me at the time that the story of the elephant is in the same general time frame, but I never realized that there was that connection. So,
yes,
wow.
Procopius is very heavyweight historian. So
yeah.
Yes.
So presumably the Sirah writers could easily have taken his history books to get some ideas for writing the Sirah.
Not necessarily they took his work, but they took what he had written, not necessarily
popularized.
From him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It could be in the popular,
Mm.
Oral history in that, yeah. Now, so this is a mosaic of the famous General Valerius, so we actually know what he looked like. That's him on the left. So as you can see, he was Justinian's the first right-hand man, and so very important guy. Anyway, later hagiographies of Muhammad modeled his military prowess on General Valerius. That's my thesis that I'm going to show today. So he was considered one of the greatest military geniuses of his time, and we'll see a very close similarity between both battles of the trench. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the location of the Dara battle is at Mardin, Turkey. Now, does the word Mardin ring any bells for you?
It sounds like Amardian and Mardian people.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yes. So there we have the picture that you used in the first video, the Mardians. So I believe that's where Mardin had come from. And one of our Turkish viewers actually pointed this out to me, connection between the two. We saw in the Umayyad video how Amguay and Amardian is related to Umayyad. Okay, so the pretext of this war, the Byzantine Empire was at war with the Sassanids from 527, supposedly because Kavad I had tried to force the Iberians to become Zoroastrians. And it was 25,000 versus 50,000. So the Persians had 50,000, the Byzantines had 25,000. So in 529, a Sasanian expedition of 40,000 men headed towards Dara. Dara is in that place that we've just mentioned, Mardin in Turkey. It's in that general area. In 530, Valerius was sent back to the region. Cava answered with another 10,000 troops under the general Peroxes, who set up camp close to Dara. Despite being outnumbered, Belarius decided to give battle. He dug a number of ditches to block the Persian cavalry, leaving gaps between them to allow a counter-attack. Do we see any similarities so far?
Yes, very similar in the large scheme of things.
Yeah. The tactic was adopted from the Persians at the Battle of Tanurus 2 years earlier, which would be 527, right? So 527 is exactly 100 years before 627. Another coincidence, let's say. So the tactics. Here he placed his unreliable infantry behind the center ditch, being placed close enough to the walls of the fortress to provide supporting fire from the city battlements, presumably using arrows, which I believe is featured heavily in the story, the Islamic version. On the left and right flanks were the Byzantine cavalry of questionable quality. Supporting them on their interior flanks were small bodies of Huns, 300 Hun cavalry supporting the left and as many more Huns on the right. Belisarius also placed a body of Heruli cavalry in ambush position of his left flank. Now, there is some confusion about what is meant by Huns, but I would suggest that this is the steppe warriors in the region of the Caspian, rather than the European Huns, which are much further west. But that's open to question. It's not crucial, but it might explain why this story was popular among the Umayyads if the Huns were actually from the Umayyad group. Does that make sense?
Let me tell you that the steppe people, this is a name that the Roman side gave to them when they described Attila the Hun. They said that he had the typical features of the steppe. Who are the steppe? Not necessarily, not just the Huns, but they are all these people that are from the nomadic Asian people. So Hephthalites also.
Yeah, it's a broad term. So this term Hun could quite easily cover the people who came from the Umayyad area next to the Caspian, as you had argued the last day. So this might explain how this particular battle is important. And we'll see, we also saw just earlier how the location of the battle, Mardin, is connected etymologically with the word Umayyad as well. So this is kind of more evidence to the same. Now, as you can see, you have the city of Dara with a fortress around it. The Byzantines built trenches, and the Huns formed an important element, as you can see in the middle. Now, the Persians obviously attacking from the top there, which doubled the numbers. So what happened essentially is Belisarius sent a letter to the Persian commander suing for peace, but this was rejected. So despite the fact that he had great military strategy, he still was smart enough to say, well, let's see if we can get a truce or something like that, but that was rejected. This detail is going to be important later. On the second day of the battle, 10,000 more Persian troops arrived. So that's the 50,000 in total. When the Persians attacked the Byzantine right wing with their elite Persian armored lancers, the Byzantine cavalry and infantry defending the ditch were pushed back, but Belisarius counterattacked with his reserve cavalry and split the Persian troops in two. Half the Persians pursued the Byzantine cavalry, but the rest were trapped, and Barismanes was killed along with 5,000 other men. So surviving Persians fled for their lives. So this was an amazing turnaround, considering that the Persians had superior numbers, and yet the Byzantines had caused them to flee for their lives. Okay, before we move on, what do you think of that so far?
I like what I'm hearing, but in the end, I will give you also another scenario.
Okay.
Which might add up.
Yeah. Okay. We'll hold on. So Dara remained a key military location, and this is another reason why I think this is the real origin of the Battle of the Trench, because of this location's centrality in terms of the military history for about 100 years. So in 540 and 544, Dara was attacked by Khusro I. Khusro finally captured it in 573. Maurus defeated the Persians at Dara in 586 and recaptured the fortress. The Persians under Khusro II defeated the Byzantines in 604, destroying the city, but the Byzantines later rebuilt it in 628. You see how Dara keeps appearing as an important location. In 639, the Arabs captured it, and it remained in their hands until 942, when it was attacked by the Byzantines. And after that, the Byzantines never managed to recapture it. Now, here are some of the key similarities between the stories. So with the dates, the centenary of the original Battle of Dara occurs in the date that's given for the Battle of Khandaq. In both cases, you have negotiation. So in the Islamic one, Muhammad negotiates. In the Byzantine one, it's General Belarius, which is kind of like a way of showing Muhammad as a military genius. In both cases, they dug a trench. Now, in the Islamic one, it's on the suggestion of Salman the Persian, but in the original one, the trench idea was copied from the Persians. So in both cases, Persians gave the idea of the trench. So the numbers, 3,000 versus 10,000 and 25,000 versus 50,000. And in the Islamic one, it's about 10 times the number of days it took. So it's 2 or 3 days in the Dara one. And in terms of the breakdown of the numbers, Persians appear in both versions. So the Arab Muslims and the Persian, Salman the Persian, versus the Confederation of Arabs and Jews. And in the other one, it's the Byzantines and Central Asians versus the Persians. And just to wrap up, one of the sources I have for my suggestion that this was a story borrowed from that time is Robert Hoyland in God's Path, and that's his opinion as well. And in terms of filling out the information, I've used Wikipedia for the Battle of Dara and the Battle of the Trench. So Murad, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, you see, the Huns, remember that they worked as allies with the Byzantines later. First, of course, they sacked Rome, and they were fearless with Attila the Hun, but later they joined, so they were like the Ghassanids, but they were on the other side.
Yeah.
But you see in Tom Holland's book, which is In the Shadow of the Sword, he records a similar idea like the Battle of Dara, but on further east with the Hephthalites, which are the white Huns. These are not the same Huns of Attila. These are the white Huns called the Hephthalites, and they did this and won a battle against the Persians. So Tom Holland, he doesn't say clearly in the book that this is the Battle of the Trench, but he lays the foundation.
Do you know where he located it? Because it could be that he's referring maybe to the same place. No?
I don't remember, but I remember that it was the Hephthalites took part of Persia with this idea. Yeah,
I would probably be willing to bet that if you were to look it up, maybe you could do it afterwards and you could leave a note. I'd imagine it's probably the same location. So if he said that there was Hephthalites involved in this, that would just make my case even stronger that there's a connection there. But it'd be interesting to see what you find out on that one.
Yes.
So so that's another contribution to the overall idea. I think it's fair to say, I don't know if you'd agree, that in all likelihood the story of the Battle of the Trench is actually really based and robbed from a historical event such as the one that I've just presented. What would you say?
Yes, I agree, and I had the similar idea, because all of the battles of the Islamic ones, or most of them, maybe just one is historical and we will look at it in another video, but all of them seem to be about the Byzantine-Persian wars from 602 to 628.
Yeah,
it seems that they're all just rehashes. But what I am always trying to think is, are the Muslims with the Byzantine side. So here they are like the Byzantines.
Yeah.
They chose the winner, which is the Byzantines. And you see in the Quran, it says that the mu'mineen, they will be happy when the Byzantines triumph. This is in Surah 30, verse 1. We will look at it also.
Yeah.
In another video.
Well,
so it seems that this is the pattern that they are following.
Yeah, and actually, if, as we saw there, the Huns were fighting with the Byzantines, that would support the case that there's a history there of supporting the Byzantines, presumably until they finally came to loggerheads, and they ended up much later kind of going against them.
Yes, but there is something that I don't want to forget. Dan Gibson, he did a video about this Battle of the Trench, and he said that it's historical and it is in Al-Madinah, Saudi Arabia. But the trench that he has shown is very small. You see, if the Battle of the Trench happened, we have to find the trench till now. So that was very small trench. This is not real. This is just a random trench. Yeah. And when we say Yathrib, we do not know if it's the Yathrib of Saudi Arabia or the Yathrib of Iraq.
That's it. Yeah.
This is very crucial also.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll stop it there, and thank you for being with us again today. Thank you, Murad.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I mean, if you look at the Battle of the Trench, that's of course a battle of Belisarius, one of Justinian's generals in the 6th century.